Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 3 of the Look Back with Mac podcast. I'm Michael McKenzie. I'll be your host for today's episode. And today we're going to be going over some Ohio State recruiting because we're going to have a very special guest with us later in the show. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, this is episode 9. Just want to make sure I mention that out there. We're going to be going over the historic, so far, Ohio State class of 2021 recruiting. This has been an absolutely stacked class down the list for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And then later in the show, if you don't know already, we're going to be interviewing Ben Christman, 4-star offensive tackle from Revere High School right here in Ohio. So we're going to be interviewing him, asking him about why he chose Ohio State and the different types of relationships he has with the other commits, because this team seems to have a very great chemistry already, this recruiting class, I should say, and they haven't even stepped on the same field as each other. So it's been remarkable what Ohio State has been able to put together, and we're going to be going over what they have put together, and then we're going to be interviewing one of the key pieces of that recruiting class in Ben Christman. So let's hop right into it. We're going to start with the top 4 players in the class, 4 5-stars. And many believe there should be 5. We're just going to hop right into this. First, the top player in the class, 5-star defensive end Jack Sawyer, ranked number 3 nationally, 3rd at the position of defensive end, and 1st in his state. And Sawyer, the top 3 players in the class are all 3 defensive ends. Number 1 right now, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, which is what we're using which are the rankings and ratings we're using here between the 5 stars and the 4 stars and the 3 stars. We're going to be using the 24/7 Sports Composite for these. Jack Sawyer ranked number 3 among defensive ends and number 3 in this recruiting class. The other defensive ends that are in this class that he's going up against, trying to get that number 1 ranking, which I believe he does have in the ESPN 300 rankings. JT Tuiamola, I'm probably wrong on that. If anybody knows the real pronouncing of his name, please let me know. And Corey Foreman, who recently decommitted from Clemson. And a lot of people now believe he is going to be going to USC, more than likely. USC putting together a surprisingly well class in the 2021 recruiting, as well as North Carolina and Tennessee, as they have hopped rankings. Now Clemson, after having the number 1 recruiting class in 2020, no doubt, in the 2021 class, are suddenly down sitting at number 4. But yeah, Sawyer has a chance to be the next great defensive end for Ohio State, and if it's not going to be him, it's more than likely going to be JT Tuiamola, who a lot of people believe is going to commit to Ohio State. He goes to Eastside Catholic in Washington. Another target for Ohio State going to that same school is Emeka Egbuka, and a nice in that they have with Eastside Catholic is G. Scott Jr., the freshman incoming for Ohio State, who has already signed with that school. So that's a big in for Ohio State for those 2 recruits, 2 5-stars from Washington that they're going to try to pull from that state. The Huskies are pushing all in on these 2 guys. If Ohio State can steal those 2, that would make it 6 5-stars in the class. If they could pull J.C. Latham, that would be 7. Those are some of the targets for Ohio State. But yeah, Jack Sawyer has the chance to be the next great defensive end for Ohio State. Watch out for Sawyer for the Ohio State Buckeyes in 2021 and 2022. When he gets his first reps. Next, we got 5-star running back Travion Henderson, ranked number 19th nationally, 2nd at the position in the 24/7 Sports Composite, but among all the recruiting experts, analysts, and college football pages, a lot of people believe that he is easily the best running back in this class, 3rd in the state of Virginia. And he took the official visit to Virginia Tech, and a lot of the fans there showed him a lot of love. Still committed to Ohio State. He didn't even step foot on campus, committed March 27th, in the middle of a national pandemic, not a global pandemic, a national lockdown, hadn't even visited Ohio State, and committed to the school. The last running back to commit to Ohio State that didn't step foot on campus, J.K. Dobbins. I think you might have heard of him. The only running back in Ohio State history to rush for 2,000 yards. So if this is anything like J.K. Dobbins for Travion Henderson, that is a huge get for the Ohio State Buckeyes at running back. And we could see him come in at running back with the departure of Trey Sermon after this year, as he was the grad transfer from Oklahoma, and Master T, I believe he might transfer. Ohio State fans have got to watch out for that. He had an Achilles injury, so he's on the shelf for 6 months. Ohio State doesn't know if they're going to have a healthy running back. They might have to rely on Marcus Crowley, more than likely at the running back position, to start the season. And you've got that big game in Eugene, Oregon. week 2, which Master Teague more than likely would not have been available for. So you got to go out and get a running back. Trey Sermon, a guy who was being recruited hard by Ohio State during his recruiting process, decided to transfer to OSU. And now he's going to be a starting running back this year. Now you got to look out for Master Teague's transfer because they've got Travion Henderson and another big running back in the class. I'll talk about him when we get that far down the list. But you talk about you've got Travion Henderson and another big running back. You've got Trey Sermon this year. If you look for Master Teague to transfer, Travion Henderson's going to get a lot of reps his rookie season. Maybe Marcus Crowley is going to get the majority, or he's going to split it between Henderson and Crowley, or it's going to split between Henderson and the other running back in the class. I don't want to mention any names right now for those of you not aware with this recruiting class, which is going to be historic, more than likely going to be the best of all time when it's all said and done, when all the players are have signed their national letters of intent on National Signing Day. But yeah, Travion Henderson's a guy who we could see be getting carries his rookie season, if not at least his sophomore season. By 2022, Travion Henderson will be the main running back in that Ohio State backfield. There's no doubt about it. Next 5-star in the class, offensive guard Donovan Jackson, ranked 21st in the nation, first at the position of offensive guard and third in his state. And Donovan Jackson's going to be a nice guy that can fit in on that offensive line. And you talk about the offensive line commits Ohio State has over the past few years. You got Nicholas Petit-Frere. You got Paris from, I believe, the 2018 or 2019 class. The 2020 class had Paris Campbell. 2020 class has Jackson and Ben Christman. I've already said his name. We're going to be interviewing him later in the show. So, yeah, the Ohio State offensive line is looking pretty good with the recruits that they've been able to get. Donovan Jackson's ranked third in the state of Texas, I believe, is where he came from. Ohio State has been able to go into some of these other states and steal recruits. They went into Texas and they got Donovan Jackson. They got Garrett Wilson in the 2018 or 2019 class. So they've got J.K. Dobbins there, and he didn't even step foot on campus. Ohio State is going into these other states, such as Missouri and Kentucky, as they've got the number one player in both of those states. We'll talk about them later. Talk about Texas, they've stolen recruits from there multiple times. You talk about Virginia, they got the best player in that state. They got a top 3 player in that state. You talk about the recruits Ohio State has been able to get from all over the country. It's insane what this class has been able to do. And Donovan Jackson's going to be a nice piece on that offensive line in the future. If you can hear that, I don't know if you can. You couldn't hear the mower last week once I went back and saw the recording, but my dogs are going crazy about something in the backyard. I don't know what it is, but we'll get on with it. Next 5-star, the fourth 5-star in this class, quarterback Kyle McCord, pro-style QB, ranked number 26 in the nation, third at the position of quarterback, and second in the state of Pennsylvania. Goes to St. John's School. They got another player from that exact school later in this class. We'll talk about him. He's the son of a current NFL wide receiver. But you talk about Kyle McCord, he could be the successor to C.J. Stroud, who is more than likely going to be the successor to Justin Fields once he leaves this year. Stroud signed in the 2020 class. You talk about Jack Miller, a 4-star, who is going to be the successor to Justin Fields. Now he's sitting at a backup, more than likely going to transfer. Don't be surprised if you see that. We talk about Kyle McCord, pro-style quarterback, got his 5-star a couple of updated rankings ago. McCord, he could be the successor to Justin Fields. He could just completely leap C.J. Stroud and take over at that starting quarterback in 2021. You're probably going to take over in 2022. C.J. Stroud's going to get his year. But Kyle McCord's going to be one of the next great Ohio State quarterbacks. He's a very good QB from Pennsylvania. You're probably going to only see C.J. Stroud maybe 1 or 2 years. You're going to see him in 2021 for sure. Maybe in 2022. It depends on that quarterback battle between Kyle McCord and C.J. Stroud. But Ryan Day, something that he is good at is producing quarterbacks. We saw it with Justin Fields and Dwayne Haskins. And now you see C.J. Stroud and Kyle McCord. Something Ryan Day can do well is recruit quarterbacks. So look out for Ohio State as a school that can recruit some of the top quarterbacks in recruiting classes. I don't think they're going to take one in the 22 class because they're going to have 3 QBs and a stacked quarterback room in 2021. So don't look for them to take a big profile, big name quarterback until the 2023 class. But Kyle McCord could be one of the next great Ohio State quarterbacks. We're going to go on now to the 4-star, who a lot of people believe should have gotten his 5-star but didn't. 4-star defensive end from Florida, plays at IMG Academy, Tunmise Adelaide. ranked 34th in the nation, 4th at the position of defensive end, and 7th in the state of Florida. And that's going to make it 3 defensive ends if Ohio State can land JT Tuiamola from Washington. This defensive line for Ohio State is shaping up pretty well in this recruiting class. You can see a lot of things start to take shape in this recruiting class, and that's going to be the common theme. Ohio State filling gaps that are more than likely going to be gone, that are more than likely not going to be there. You're going to fill the gap with Chase Young leaving. You got Zach Harrison in there. He's going to leave in 2022, 2023. I believe he's going to be a great defensive end at Ohio State. But Ohio State is building that defensive line, and they have been a school in recent history that can produce not just defensive ends, but high-profile, big-name, amazing defensive ends. You talk about Joey Bosa, went to the Los Angeles Chargers, a top 5 pick in the draft. You talk about Nick Bosa, San Francisco 49er defensive end, won Defensive Rookie of the Year, and was a key part in that 49ers defense that took them to a Super Bowl. Chase Young, 2nd overall pick to the Washington Redskins. Watch out for what the Redskins can do this year. If they can get some of their other rookies to develop, such as Dwayne Haskins, they might put themselves in the NFC East title race. But the defensive ends Ohio State produces is easily one of the big factors that defensive line coach Al Washington can go out and tell recruits, we just produced the Bosa brothers and Young. You want to be next? Come to Ohio State. So that's another defensive end in the Ohio State class. Next, 4-star defensive back Jacalyn Johnson, nationally ranked number 43, 4th at the position of defensive back and 1st in his home state of Missouri. And that's another defensive back, another thing that Ohio State can claim, I believe, DBU. I saw an argument on a college football meme page. It's not debatable. LSU is DBU. It's Ohio State is DBU. If I need to explain that in another podcast episode, I absolutely will. Ohio State is undoubtedly DBU, especially after this past draft class with Jeff Okudah, top 3 pick. First since Sean Springs, another Buckeye in 1997. But yeah, Jacalyn Johnson coming to Ohio State could be a nice addition to that secondary, which is going to lose Sean Wade after this year. Lost Jeff Okudah, Damon Arnett, and Jordan Fuller last year. In the last recruiting class, it wasn't the greatest. When you talk about secondary additions, you did get Ryan Watts, and you did get Lathan Ransom, and you did get Lejon Cavazanos. But some of those guys are going to be boom or bust. And we saw that, and a lot of people saw that with Lathan Ransom at one of the recruit high school pro camps in San Antonio. But yeah, they need to build up in that secondary to replace some of these high-profile named guys, especially after Clark Phillips, a hard commit in the 2020 class, ended up flipping to Utah last minute. So yeah, nice addition there in Jacalyn Johnson for Ohio State to that secondary so that they can build depth back there and not rely on boom or bust talent. Next, 4-star defensive tackle Mike Hall, ranked number 57th nationally, 5th at the position of defensive tackle, and 2nd in the state of Ohio, coming from Cincinnati, Ohio, a backyard at-home kid for Ohio State. He got a huge jump in these rankings, and he could be a nice addition to that defensive line for Al Washington. So look out for Mike Hall. He's pretty underrated in this class. He did do an April Fool's joke where he was going to transfer to IMG Academy earlier in the day, and it actually got a lot of the Ohio State IG pages flustering because they thought that it might not bode well for the future recruitment because now he's going to go down there and a lot of Florida schools are going to push him hard, especially now that he's ranked in the top 60. But Mike Hall's staying in Cincinnati, staying at his high school, and he is going to more than likely sign with the Ohio State Buckeyes now. Next, that 4-star wide receiver from St. John's Prep School that Kyle McCord attends, it's Marvin Harrison Jr., son of NFL wide receiver Marvin Harrison. He's ranked number 59 in the nation, 8th at the position of wide receiver, and 5th in the state of Pennsylvania. So Ohio State's got 2 top 5 players in Pennsylvania. You got the top player in Missouri and Kentucky. You've got a top 3 player in the state of Texas. So Ohio State, it's all over the board. It's not just in Ohio. It's not in this east region that they're recruiting. They're recruiting all over the board. They're more than likely going to get 2 5-stars from Washington if everything plays out the way Buckeye fans think they will. So this class is not just talented, But it's just all over the board. You also got a top 3 player in Virginia. Forgot to mention that, and Travion Henderson. So this class is very spread out when you talk about in terms of talent. Spread out in talent in terms of position and in terms of geographical location. Ryan Day is asserting his recruiting dominance over the entire country. Not just this East region, not just this state of Ohio and state of Pennsylvania and maybe getting his foot in the door in the state of Texas. He is recruiting dominantly all across the board. And that is a common theme that you're seeing in this class. Next, wide receiver, 4-star Jaden Ballard, ranked number 68th nationally, 11th at the position of wide receiver, and 3rd in his state. Ballard, another wide receiver that can come in and do some good things. But you talk about wide receivers, you got Garrett Wilson, who's going to be here for another year in 2021. You got Julian Fleming, G. Scott Jr., Jackson Smith-Jigba. There are a lot of guys, wide receivers, in that last class. That 2020 class was wide receiver heavy. You got the best wide receiver in the class, and 5-star Julian Fleming, 5-star Jackson Smith-Jigba, who can probably get some playing time this year. You got G. Scott Jr., who is a big guy who can go up and make physical catches. You got 3 dominant guys. You still got Garrett Wilson there. You got Jamison Williams, who can be a taller version of Paris Campbell. So the wide receiving core for Ohio State is the least of anybody's worries, especially in that Ohio State locker room. Next, 4-star inside linebacker Reed Carrico, ranked number 70 in the nation, 4th at the position, 2nd at the position of inside linebacker and 4th in his state. He could be a nice guy that can come in and replace a Malik Harrison, who just got drafted by Baltimore, or a Pete Werner. With some of these linebackers for Ohio State leaving, nice addition by Reed Carrico, because that's going to be a position of need, something that's going to need to be addressed in future recruiting classes with some of the future departures. You got Court Williams in the last class, and you got Reed Carrico in this class. So they got some talent at that linebacker position to come in and replace some of these guys that are leaving for the NFL. Next, that other running back we were talking about earlier, 4-star Evan Pryor from the state of North Carolina, a top 5 player in that state, ranked number 4th in that state, 5th at the position of running back and 84th nationally. And he was a guy who was considered either Ohio State or North Carolina. And it's either home or you're going to Ohio State. And the last time we saw something like this in recruit for Ohio State, it was Bijan Robinson just last year in Texas. He wanted to go to Ohio State. A lot of crystal balls on 24/7 Sports and all those sites were in for Ohio State. He wanted to go there. But family members, and he didn't want to go away from home, really. He wanted to play for Ohio State, but there was also this small part of him that didn't want to go home, and his family wanted to push him to Texas, so he decided to commit to Texas. So a lot of people thought that might be a similar situation with Evan Pryor, especially considering the talent that North Carolina's class was building. They were second at that time, and they're still second right now, I believe, unless Tennessee has jumped them with the noise that they've been able to make over the past month. But Evan Pryor commits to Ohio State in mid-March. I believe it was just a couple of days after everything had gotten shut down. A couple days after that infamous March 14th, the day the sports world stopped. Evan Pryor committed to Ohio State, and then later after, Travion Henderson committed to Ohio State. And you talk about the running backs. Ohio State had four options, and they were only going to take 2. They were going to take, there were 2 pairs, the 2 4-stars and the 2 5-stars. They were going to take one of the 5-stars and one of the 4-stars. The 2 5-stars were Donovan Edwards from that state up north, who had all the ties to the Wolverines and was crystal balled multiple times to go to Ohio State, or Travion Henderson. It was a matter of who's going to commit first. And Travion Henderson committed first. Maybe that was why he was compelled to commit to Ohio State. Now, and then you got Donovan Edwards, who's now projected to go to Georgia, which that would be a huge recruiting loss for the Wolverines, because you got Donovan Edwards. His father played for the Wolverines, I believe. He's got all the ties to that team up north. A guy that they can go in, that the Wolverines and Harbaugh can go into their backyard and pick up. Now he's going to more than likely go to Georgia. That's what it seemingly looks like. Horrible look for Harbaugh in the Wolverines. Now you got the 2 4-stars, Evan Pryor and Corey Kiner. Corey Kiner, a backyard guy for Ohio State, but Evan Pryor more than likely the better running back. Corey Kiner wouldn't commit. A lot of people believe that Corey Kiner would be a huge get at the running back position for Ohio State, and they're not even going to take him. Corey Kiner committed to LSU a few weeks ago because Evan Pryor and Travion Henderson committed in March. Edwards is uncommitted. Kiner committed to LSU, but only as of a few weeks ago. These guys that are committing early, Evan Pryor also, I don't believe he stepped foot on campus either. So you got 2 guys that haven't stepped foot on campus in the running back position, and they're committing to Ohio State. But you got those 2 running backs. And you talk about Corey Kiner, who's going to be a corner piece of that class. Now he's sitting at LSU. Next, we're going to go on to 4-star offensive tackle Ben Christman. He's going to be the star of the show. After we go over this recruiting class and take a quick ad break, we're going to be interviewing him. The interview is going to be over the phone, so there's going to be. So if you were watching the video version of this, the one on YouTube, there is not going to be any footage of the 2 of us. I had attempted to get this call on Zoom, but he had preferred to do it over the phone. So we're going to do this interview over the phone. Christman ranked number 104 in the national rankings out of this class, 15th at the position of offensive tackle, and 5th in the state of Ohio, attending Revere High School. We're going to talk about his high school career. We're going to talk about his recruiting, why he chose Ohio State, and what the bond is between these recruits, because it all seems to be unbreakable. All these recruits are just in sync. I don't know what it is, because they haven't all been in the same locker room, same weight room, yet they still seem to have this unbreakable bond between them. It's unheard of and unexplainable. So we're going to have to ask one of the main guys in there, Ben Christman, almost sort of the ringmaster of all of the stuff. He's committing on a lot of these recruiting pages posts. He's posting a lot on Twitter and Instagram, pushing guys to go to Ohio State. And not just pushing like, come to Ohio State, look what we have. Pushing them hard. Like, this is going to be the greatest recruiting class of all time. Don't you want to be a part of that? He is a huge advocate for Ohio State to get guys into this class. So we're going to talk with him about that later in the show. 4-star safety Andre Turrentine is going to be the next guy we talk about. Ranked at 141 nationally, 4th at the position of safety and 3rd in his respective state. Turrentine is another guy that you can add to that depth in the secondary instead of relying on boom or bust talent. You can get some of these consistent guys that aren't boom or bust to get some depth in that secondary position for years to come, because Ohio State has been known as DBU. They've at least been in the conversation. A lot of people believe it's LSU for some odd reason, but they've been in that conversation of DBU for a long time. And adding that into this and adding more depth into this class is huge. And starting with Turrentine, the next 4 guys are all secondary guys. Next we got 4-star athlete, but he's going to be a defensive back, Denzel Burke, ranked number 183 in the nation, 7th at the position, and 4th in his respective state. And Burke, it was down to, if you're not following Ohio State recruiting, which I don't think most of my listeners do, it was down to, I believe, Jalen Davies from Mater Dei High School in California or Denzel Burke. Ohio State went with the twitchier, more athletic guy in Denzel Burke as opposed to Jalen Davies, who's more fundamentally sound at the position. But they wanted that athletic, quick, twitch guy at defensive back instead of Jalen Davies, who's a more fundamentally sound player at the position. So they took Denzel Burke committed. Now Jalen Davies is more than likely going to go to a California school. UCLA and USC are probably in the mix for his recruiting. I haven't checked on his recruiting since the Denzel Burke. Crystal balls were rolling in for the past 2 days. Yesterday, Burke committed. 2 days ago, Burke committed. On Sunday, I believe it was. Saturday and Friday, crystal balls were rolling in for Burke. The first one coming in was a low confidence on 24/7 Sports. So a lot of people didn't want to pay attention to that. But then you got 3 or 4 crystal balls that roll in at 7 and 8. Medium to high expectation that he's going to commit. So then it's speculating, this kid, he's a silent commit to Ohio State, or Ohio State's just pushing him hard because they want Burke over Davies. And then Burke announces his commitment on Sunday, so he was more than likely a silent commit at that time. But yeah, they wanted the more athletic guy over the more fundamentally sound guy in Denzel Burke over Jalen Davies. Next, you got 4-star safety Jansen Dunn, number 2 in the composite in the state of Kentucky, but he's widely regarded as the number 1 player in that state, ranked number 205 nationally, 11th at the position, and again, 2nd in the state of Kentucky according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings. And Jansen Dunn, his recruitment was interesting. So I believe it was a Friday or a Saturday night. Lincoln Riley tweets out the eyes emoji, which is the Oklahoma sign Lincoln Riley signed for, we got to commit. We got to silent commit. Nearly 2 minutes later, Jansen Dunn tweets out, big news coming soon. Stay tuned, with the firework emoji. Then you got 5 crystal balls that roll in for Dunn to go to Oklahoma. And that was the consensus. Jansen Dunn is going to go to Oklahoma. Then Ryan Day had more than likely realized this. This is now, at this point, we are 99% sure that Dunn was the silent commit to Oklahoma at that point. So then at that point, Ryan Day either texts or calls in some way, shape, or form, communicates with Jansen Dunn. Says, we got a spot. If you're recruiting, if you're committing to them over a spot, we've got a spot for you. Dunn was more than likely confused about whether a spot was available for him. Day then cleared it up, said, there is a spot for you on this team, in this recruiting class. So then Dunn silently decommits from Oklahoma, and no news comes that night. The only other thing that happens is 3 crystal balls flip from Oklahoma to Ohio State. And then those rumors start circulating. Then within 2 days, Jansen Dunn verbally, publicly commits to Ohio State. So it was a wild recruitment for Jansen Dunn, especially on that specific weekend, those specific 3 days. But Jansen Dunn, he's going to be a safety at Ohio State. And again, it's that adding depth to the secondary, which is a lot of boomer bust talent this year. You got Sean Wade, who's going to be the veteran, and then you got a lot of young guys that are going to have to come in there. There was going to be Amir Reep, but then the whole situation with him being accused of a rape happens. So now you're going to have Cam Brown, probably the more experienced guy, in there with Sean Wade, and then you're probably going to have to throw a couple of safeties in there that are young, such as Lathan Ransom and Lejon Cavazanos at that secondary position. But Jansen Dunn, it's another guy that you can add in there as a depth guy in the secondary for Ohio State, which is going to need it because it's going to have a lot of boomer bust talent, especially in the 2021 season. Next, we're going to go into the 3 stars. 3-star Jalen Johnson, ranked number 346th in the nation, 23rd at the position, and 11th in his state. 3-star tight end Sam Hart, ranked number 373 nationally, 16th at the position, and 4th in his respective state. And Ohio State, they're more than likely going to take another tight end in the class. It's just a matter of who's going to commit to Ohio State. They're going to take 2 tight ends in this class, more than likely. So watch out for that if you're going to commit, if you're going to keep going with that recruiting. And another defensive back, another guy to add into that secondary, 3-star Devontae Smith, ranked number 395th in the nation, 30th at the position, and 12th in his respective state. That's the 2021 class for Ohio State. Coming up next, 4-star offensive tackle Ben Christman. We're going to talk about Ohio State recruiting, why he chose to go to that school, and a lot more. Coming up on a Look Back with Mac. Again, stay tuned for the Ben Christman interview. Coming up next.
And welcome back to the Look Back with Mac podcast. And now I'm joined by the man, 4-star offensive tackle, future Ohio State Buckeye, Ben Christman. Ben, thanks for joining me on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, for those of you that are unfamiliar with Ben, he's ranked number 104 in the nation in the 2021 recruiting class, according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings. For some of the listeners out there that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm just a guy that wants to give everything he's got, try to be the best version of himself as a student, as an athlete, as a son, as an older brother. Just can't wait to be part of the brotherhood.
All right, so you're committed to Ohio State. What made Ohio State the place to continue your athletic career? What made Ohio State stand out from other schools such as Notre Dame that were also recruiting you?
Just felt like home for me. Every visit, I was there. I just kind of would, any problems I had, any kind of stress I had, it would all just be let go, there. And they were recruiting me the most, and it all felt right.
And you're very outspoken on Twitter and Instagram about this being one of the greatest recruiting classes ever assembled. You're huge on social media, but you're also outspoken about how great of a coach Ryan Day is. What is your personal relationship with Coach Day and the rest of the staff at Ohio State?
It's the best staff in America. I'm always talking to one of the coaches every single day. It's just a family. It's all. It's not all just talk. When we say it's a brotherhood, it's a family, we mean that, and it's not just a saying. It shows.
Now, this recruiting class, a lot of guys have started to get on board with this class, but you committed last summer in June after your visit on campus. Why was it so important for yourself to be one of the first commits in this class?
That was one of the biggest points that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a leader of a class, and they were sincere about it, and I feel like I've kind of come my own, but I've also just wanted to, be a part of this, and can't take any of the credit.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, 104th ranked in this class, 15th at offensive tackle, and 5th in the state. Do you pay attention to those rankings on 24/7 Sports or Rivals?
Not really. I get told about it, like, they dropped you, or, they gave you a little boost or anything, but I don't really pay attention to that.
All right, now on to some of the other commits and recruits in this class. You're very outspoken on Twitter. You like to push guys towards Ohio State. Why is it so important for you to advocate for other recruits and players to join this class?
You never know who could see it. It's just I want to play, for championships, and I try to tell guys, hey, this is going to be a special group, and you can be a part of this. It's so much more than a football factory too. There's, off the field they help you, and just so many great things I think being a great teammate helps with that too.
Now, all of the recruits in this class, they almost seem to have this unbreakable bond, and you guys haven't even been in the same locker room, haven't been in the same weight room. What is the relationship between all the commits in this class? Because it already seems that the chemistry is through the roof with these commits.
Yeah, no, we're all tight. We talk every day. We all tell jokes to each other. We talk about the future. Those are my guys. Can't wait.
Now, do you do any sort of things behind the scenes with some of the uncommitted guys? You try to message them on Twitter or Instagram to say, Ohio State's the place, you need to come here?
I haven't done that too much. I did that a lot when I started, and then once guys started hopping on board, I kind of just, let everything else come into place. I haven't really done too many direct messages or anything. It's all on either a group chat or a shout out on Instagram or social or Twitter.
Now, there's been a lot of speculation. A lot of people saw the steak emoji tweets put out by a lot of you guys. Am I allowed to ask what the meaning behind that is?
You can ask about it, but no comment on my response.
All right. Yeah, it was worth a shot. And, it's been a lot of modified workouts and modified things during this lockdown. How have you been keeping in shape? How have you been working out since the whole quarantine has started?
I just go across fields. We have a park. It's pretty nice. I work out there a lot. Didn't have access to a weight room until today, but I just work out in my garage or on the road. I don't have much, but we got a couple of things, and I just work out, every day. So, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times a day. Just gotta keep working.
All right, and you still have one more year of high school football left. Your senior year coming up at Revere High School. What is the ultimate goal for Revere this upcoming season?
I want to win. I want to just keep my checklist going of beating our rival, having the victory bell with Copley. I want to win a league championship, and I want to have a run at the state title.
All right, Ben Christman, future Ohio State Buckeye, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me today, Ben.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, man.
And that'll wrap it up for episode 3 of the Look Back with Mac podcast. I'm Michael McKenzie. Make sure to tune in. Episode 4 will be next Tuesday. Episode 10 on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Again, we upload every Tuesday on every major podcasting platform and YouTube. So once again, this is Michael McKenzie signing off for now for Look Back with Mac. And we once again want to thank Ben Christman for his time. Michael McKenzie signing off for Look Back with Mac.